Hello everyone, Travis here, and welcome back to the channel. We are in the world of Open Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 today, back in the Mega Park for some more fun and games here. So in today's episode, I'm actually going to be shifting back over to the Alpine area. What I want to do, I was kind of looking things over earlier, and I want to make this building a dark ride of sorts. I'm not like gonna do a whole lot of like interior theming or anything crazy like that. Like I said, that's not the purpose of this project and not how we're gonna be kind of proceeding with this moving forward. But I guess kind of similar to what I did over here with the cars ride. That we have this vintage cars inside of this building. I'm wanting something like that over here, but I'm gonna use like the Haunted Mansion or like the Ghost Train sort of track system instead, and that'll vary like the ride lineup and different options that this park offers. It is a mega park, so we want to make sure that we're appealing to like the masses, and it's not all just big coasters and nothing else. And so yeah, I was wanting to add another track ride, and it seems like that's where it makes the most sense. I mean, if you look at the map, we're basically, pretty full at this point. So tons and tons of detailing and foliage to do, but we will get to that at a later date. And a lot of that is going to be done off camera, of course. But anyway, without further delay, we'll move into the time lapse, and I hope you all enjoy. All right, so we are back and we are time-lapsing this dark ride. You'll see I start out by removing this sort of smaller, lower portion of the building, and I'm going to lower the ground a little bit here to create sort of like a basement level for this dark ride. That gives us a little bit more flexibility with being able to overlay like the tracks and stuff without having to go too high. This ride obviously wouldn't have a lot of drops and dips and dives in it. But like if you think of the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland, Disney World, etc., you do change elevation throughout the process of the ride, and so we're going to be doing that here as well. You'll see I struggle a little bit to get this building shape the way I wanted it first, and I do like this little corner bit like 3 or 4 times before I get it the way I want it. I wanted to copy the building shape and style that's right like on the other side of this building, because that little like area in between where the backstage entrance used to be is actually going to be the entrance of the ride. And you'll see that when I put in the station. The station, I did it so that it has a separate exit platform and entrance platform, and which I think is pretty typical for these types of rides. But it also was because of how tight the area that I had to work with is right there. And it kind of worked out because the way you exit is you go out through that building where I already had path before. So not a very conventionally shaped station, I'm aware, but I think it works. Your car would come to that little single exit station and you would exit there, and then it would turn the corner empty and come into the main station for people to reload. So that's pretty common, I think, especially when it comes to like Disney and parks that require very large amounts of throughput. It actually makes it easier for them to have a separate exit station so that by the time the cars are coming into the main station, the guests can just immediately get on them and there's no delay. So yeah, pretty boring ride, to be honest. In reality, this would be very, very highly themed on the inside, and I don't know what the theme would be. There would probably maybe be some branding on it, some sort of cartoon character maybe, because this is similar to like rides like Alice in Wonderland and the Snow White ride and stuff at Disneyland and those types of things. So they're slower paced, they're not crazy big thrilling rides, but these rides do tend to be popular. Like think of like Peter Pan's Flight, and obviously that's like a different type of ride system because they're suspended, but it's still kind of the same concept where it's very slow paced, very highly themed. It tells kind of a story throughout the way and whatever. And Peter Pan's Flight can get as long of lines as like the e-ticket attractions. So you know, it just goes to show that high thrill roller coasters aren't always necessarily what people are looking for. So yeah, this park is getting pretty close to done. I know I've said that for the last several episodes, but I was looking at it earlier today, and honestly, there's like 3 or 4 flat rides we need to figure out for this area, and one that's going over into that industrial themed area that we've been working on, where this dive coaster is. And that's pretty much it, other than scenery, I mean, foliage, detailing, all of that real tedious stuff that, like I said, most of which is going to happen off camera. One thing you will notice in this, you probably have noticed in all the episodes so far, or at least the last 15 or 20 episodes, there's a lot of notifications coming up on the bottom of the screen for like rides breaking down and guests getting lost and trash and whatever. Like I haven't really done a lot with like organizing staff and setting rides on inspection schedules, and even like some of the roller coasters I haven't even set like the timing in between train releases and those kinds of things yet. So that's all detailing work that I'm going to have to be doing later. So when I do release this park in its final state, the idea is that a lot of that stuff won't happen, or at least it won't happen as much. A park of this size, it's almost impossible to not get like the guests are getting stuck and lost error constantly. But I can definitely keep the park cleaner and the rides, from breaking down more often, or keep them breaking down less often, if you will, once I get everything organized. And when this gets voted on and whatever, that's going to be something that somebody says like, your guests are constantly getting stuck and lost and blah, 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 blah. And I know there are ways to like reduce the number of junctions in the paths and cover them up with like path coverings. And a lot of people use exclusively invisible pathing and just like pretend, put scenery path in over the area so that it looks like big full open plazas and stuff. That's way too much work, especially in a park like this where I didn't start out planning it that way. To go back and try to redo all that stuff, I mean, it's so not even worth it to me. You just click the cheat icon and make the guests happy, and give them all park maps and whatever, fix all the rides and clean all the paths in a matter of a couple of clicks, and then you're good for another 10-15 minutes before the error comes up again. Now, of course, this is sped up, so you're seeing those errors come in constantly, but the reality is they're pretty spaced out, like several minutes apart, not a couple of seconds apart in some cases. But anyway, if anyone was wondering, those kinds of things I don't do as I go along normally. Like I save that kind of for last. My next project that I think I've decided on for Roller Coaster Tycoon on this channel is actually something kind of different. I think you guys are going to be a little bit surprised. I hope you'll like it. It's I'm sure it's been done before. This game has been out for 20 years already, but it's not something I've ever done, and it's not something I've seen recently, and I won't go into too much detail about it. The park itself is going to be very highly detailed, very very realistic in its approach and whatever. That's kind of like the goal. I want to go very ultra realism, hopefully. I tend to be a little bit of a lazy builder sometimes, as you may have noticed, so we'll see how it goes in the grand scheme of things, but that's the goal. But there's a big part of the way I'm going to do that park that I think is going to be kind of fun, and we'll talk more about that in the next couple of weeks as we draw nearer to the end of this project. But yeah, so I mean, I'm just doing some of the detailing on this building now. There's definitely still the more that needs to be done to this building, and most of the buildings in this area, to be fair. This area is like the sort of like village kind of area, and it's supposed to be sort of a European, maybe Bavarian type feel, aesthetic to it. And it definitely needs more trim and more details and more, overall just aesthetic additions to it. I don't want to go like heavily cartoony like Disney. I think I've mentioned that before. I want this to look more like a real building that you could see in real life, minus the fact that there's a huge show building on the back of it. And then on the other side of the mountain, that's actually going to be the real alpine area where I'm going to be doing more of the mountainous type log cabin-y kind of scenery. And I've got to figure out how I want to do that because I don't want it to look too westerny. The wood textures and theming in this game in particular lends itself more to that Western kind of feel and aesthetic. How many times am I going to say aesthetic in one video? But anyway, yeah, so that's kind of like why I've been holding off on the actual alpine part of this, is because I don't know exactly how I want to do that. I have sort of a vision in my head, more or less, but I don't know exactly how to do that. Like, I'm going to have to look for some reference material and, whatever I can to more or less get this to look alpine-y. And obviously it's going to be very foresty, and with the tree spam sort of foliage that I'm doing in this park, I'm going to have to be very careful not to like bury it too much in tree spam. So this last section is going to be a little bit of work, and it's a little bit intimidating, I'll admit, because like when you have something in your head and like what you want something to be, and then you sit down and try to create that in any game, but these creative type of games in general, you can be overwhelmed by it. Like, why can't the ideas in my head translate into actual reality on the screen? Or I'm a writer as well, so the same thing. Like, I've written 2 or 3 novels in my head, but then I sit down to actually write them out, and it's like, man, I'm a terrible writer. I'm not. I obviously have a master's degree in creative fiction, but you feel that way sometimes. So yeah, but that's all we have left for this park, and a little bit more in that kind of industrial-ish sort of sci-fi area next door. And then, yeah, just the foliage and detailing on top of that, and then we'll have a finished park. I'm trying to stay motivated with this. I know you guys have noticed that I've been putting out Sims 4 videos as well lately. That's going to stick around. I'm balancing my channel between the 2 games. Every time I, post a Sims video, I lose a couple of subscribers, and, whatever. The views are actually growing on those videos, though, as well, which is good. Obviously I want people to watch them, but, it's not easy. And I included that because I want to have a variety of games on the channel, but also to stay motivated. If, I'm not feeling like playing one or the other, I can, switch back and forth between the 2 and keep myself from falling into a rut of, not being inspired or whatever. But anyway, we have reached the end of the video, so I want to thank you all for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you like what you see, a thumbs down if you don't. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this park and this episode and all of that. And subscribe if you haven't already. And with that said, you all have a great morning, afternoon, evening, night, etc., wherever you are in the world. And I will see you all next time.